What's up, everyone? This is Angelo coming at you with episode 222 of Spinning Thoughts. My special guest is the Home Team, and they dropped one of the best albums of 2021 called Slow Bloom. It dropped October the 22nd via Revival Recordings, and multiple contributors on the Spinning Thoughts team added Slow Bloom to their top 10 albums of 2021 list. So I had to really dive into this band and check them out because of the love that Spinning Thoughts was giving them and everybody. I was seeing it all over the internet, and really, as soon as I hit play on the first track of Slow Bloom and I heard Brian's voice, I was like, yeah, this is a band that I am not only going to love, but that I have to get on Spinning Thoughts. So what a first guest to kick off 2022 and episode 222 with the Home Team to talk about their second album. And I talked to two people from the band. There's a lot of twos. I keep talking about this in the marketing, and you'll hear me, Brian, and Daniel talk about it in our interview that's coming up. But if you like this kind of content, make sure you hit the like button on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Our website is thespinningthoughts.com, and we're on all social media at Spin Thoughts. Don't forget our premiere episodes also hit idobi radio every Thursday at midnight Eastern. And let me just give a really quick shout out to idobi radio, because right now, at the time of this taping, Spinning Thoughts is on at least one billboard in Los Angeles, California. Now, for those who don't know, I'm based in Pittsburgh. We have a lot of contributors, around the country, too, in Canada. But just, to think that this thing here that we have going on is on a billboard in Los Angeles. And back in June, I had a couple billboards, thanks to idobi, in Chicago. So, what's next? I don't know, idobi, but what I do know is that I love you. So thank you for supporting what we do here at Spinning Thoughts. And if you're anywhere in Los Angeles, go to 9th and Broadway and look up and take a picture of the Spinning Thoughts billboard and send it to us on all social media at Spin Thoughts. So without any further ado, let's dive into my interview with Brian and Daniel of the Home Team. We're going to talk all about Slow Bloom. We're going to talk a lot about them being special guests on the Ever Blossom tour, supporting This Wild Life and Broadside. We're also going to dive into their Patreon and TikTok because, spoiler alerts, the Home Team does both very, very well. We're going to talk about all of that and more. So here it is, my conversation with Brian and Daniel from the Home Team. All right, everybody, I am very excited to have my guests on here today. This is actually my first guest in 2022, and it's episode 222. So I don't know the numbers. It's a lot of twos, and I'm really, it's crazy. I'm really excited to have my guests here today. Everybody in the virtual world, say hello to Brian and Daniel from the Home Team. Friends, how's it going?
What's up?
There's also two of us.
There's two of us, and we just released our second album.
Okay, the twos in this episode are maybe gonna blow my mind, and you're right. That's a good way to just jump right into one of my first questions here, which obviously is going to be about Slow Bloom. So the band just released this. I want to say it was October the 22nd of 2021.
My God, it is. Holy shit.
What is happening here? I wasn't expecting all of these twos, and it's throwing me off. So the second album, the sophomore album, was released October the 22nd, 2021 via Revival Recordings. And this album, I saw so many people talking about it, falling in love with it. A lot of my contributors, I was telling Brian this off the air, that a lot of my contributors on the team actually listed this album in their top 10 albums of 2021. And that is not an easy thing to do, to rank literally from 10 to 1 your favorite albums. But people on this team loved Slow Bloom and added it to their list. So we're going to dive into a ton of detail about the album. But before we do that, guys, I just want to get like a little bit of a broad perspective of what it feels like to have released this record. There's been a lot of love, like I said, and just people are into it. So how does that feel right now as you're really still on this high of the album release?
It feels awesome, obviously, but at the same time, it kind of feels like now the good work starts. Like the hard work, it might be kind of over. Like I will say it was a lot preparing for this release. It was just a lot of music video time spent making music videos, figuring out how we were gonna stagger everything and put everything out. But now I feel like we get to have it under our sails as we just figure out what the next steps are, and that's probably going to look like touring as much as we can, maybe making a couple more music videos for it, but yeah, it's great. But most of all, I feel like we now have the ability to, I mean, push it to the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's always like, there's multiple steps in the album release cycle. So like there's the writing and recording process, which is like purely creative, and then all along the while, like you're planning for how you're going to release everything, trying to coordinate everyone's schedules and just like the next like year and a half to 2 years of everyone's lives. Now we're like the creative aspect is kind of done, and now we're focusing heavy on like, how do we actually get this into people's ears and get people to listen to it, and then go set up and play in front of people who want to see us and like make new fans. Then we got to start writing the next record, and it's just a never ending cycle of like, how do we like just constantly working to get the next thing going.
Yeah.
I'm always really intrigued by album cycles. Because it's not cookie cutter, it's different. Obviously, it has changed completely in this climate of COVID and everything. But in terms of like the excitement, is there, and again, there are different experiences for people in a band, but how does it like, are you more excited to head into this phase of it being a product that's out, a piece of art, maybe is the better way of saying, that's out in the world for people to actually listen to, consume, to sing back to you while you're playing on stage? Is it more exciting to be in this phase of it, or in the writing, or in the release, or is it all just not even related? It's all its own kind of excitement.
Sure.
The answer is different for everyone in the band.
Yeah, that's a good question, because we all have our own roles that we play. So our guitarist John is strictly creative. Like, if I ever tell him to do any promo thing, he'll just look through me.
He'll see right through you. Sorry.
Dan is the business side of things. I am probably somewhere in between. And so I would say each person has their own. I think John's a little lost right now.
Yeah, he's like the pure creative brain. So during the writing process, that's when he is like full on. He's the one like leading a lot of the direction that we're going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm way more like the back end business side of things. So planning everything and all the logistics to make like to like kind of keep everyone on schedule, and to get all of our stuff ordered and make sure we all have, proper paperwork and whatever. A lot of the stuff that creatives typically think is boring is my world. So like right now I'm in like the heat of everything. Like this is what I'm made for. And then Brian is like the creative director as far as like the visuals.
Right. Yeah, I would say I'm just somewhere in between those two things. Like some logistics, some creative, maybe a little more creative, but I don't get me wrong, I am very excited for the next phase of this album, because people can actually hear the whole thing. But yeah, everybody has their own role. Ryan is still kind of new to the band. That's why we didn't mention him. He is a very reliable dude, but we have not quite found where his strengths lie in the other elements of music. So everything besides playing on a stage. Right?
One thing that is really nice about having the record out is that we took a pretty drastic shift in direction from our first record to Slow Bloom. And so there was a period of like a year or so where the writing was mostly done and we knew what we were sitting on, but we didn't have anything to show anyone. So like we knew what the next record was going to sound like. And, you know, as we're like talking to fans online, and, you know, it was at the beginning of COVID. So everyone was at home and our only interactions were like on the internet with fans. We knew what the next stuff was going to sound like in the direction we were going, but no one else knew what it sounded like. So it's very nice to now have the record out so people can see the direction that we're going and how we took the new record. And so like everyone kind of gets it now that there's, you know, how we changed sound to sound, like from record to record.
Absolutely. And there's been conversations about it. Like I've seen it on the internet. It's really what caught my attention. Like I knew your album was dropping, and full disclosure, I didn't listen to it the day it came out, but I started to hear people on my team talk the fuck out of it. I had people ordering the vinyl, and I'm a big vinyl nerd. And so I was like, what are we talking about here? And no joke, I mean, right out the gate, this album just fucking hits. It does, and it goes the entire time, but it kind of has a little bit of ebb and flow that you don't really expect because the first couple tracks really hit hard. It's been really, really cool just being an outside party watching this bloom of the home team. Now, we talked about a little bit here the different roles that people play in your band outside of playing in the band. So I'm kind of curious, how does the home team approach the writing process? And it might differ from album to album. So I guess if it does, my question's more specific to Slow Bloom. Like, how did you actually approach the writing process prior to heading into studio?
Yeah, so it is very different album to album. I do want to give you just a small snippet of what the Better Off process was like. It was a bunch of dudes who wrote songs on their own and brought it to me and Dan, who played on all of them. So they are, if we told you which ones were written by who, you'd be like, oh yeah, those all sound the same, and those all sound the same, and this one sounds kind of different because I wrote it. But Slow Bloom was a much more incorporated process because everything pretty much started with John, who wrote a good portion of the last album too.
Half of the first record.
Yeah, he wrote like half of the first record. But this one, he changed direction, and what we ended up doing is we took his demos, and I have to talk about this. Him and I were at creative odds for like the first 4 years of me being in this band. Like we did not get along, like what our visions were. And it took a while, but now we are very much so in line with what we want. And it really just took like respecting the other's strengths. Long story short. So this time it was, he would come to us with a demo. It would go to Dan, who would put his spin on the drums, because John would do like a MIDI drum of his own, but he's not a drummer, so he doesn't.
So a lot of three-handed parts.
Yeah.
Playable.
Octopus drums. And then it would come to me, and I would talk about like, oh, should we switch this part of the song structure up or this kind of thing? And then I'd also put some synth on it. We would get Ryan's opinion on what the bass part should be, and then I would write my vocals. That was pretty much the case with all of them. And then at the end of all that, we did a pre-pro session with our producer Sky from Issues, and he basically we sat down with him for like a week at John's house, and he was like, okay, these are the things I hear, these are the songs that are perfect, these are the songs that could use work, blah 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 blah. We spent a week just like kind of rearranging some stuff. Nothing changed super drastically, but like he'll point out like a little thing, he'll be like, what if you did this here, like, you know what I mean? And then when we went to the studio, it was pretty much like locked in, like we knew exactly what we were doing, and we still changed shit. And so the studio aspect happened. It was a different guy that engineered it. That took a few months. We got that done. And then finally we sent it to Seb from Neck Deep, who mixed it. And even then, like me and Sky would go through the songs and add some extra synth elements that we felt like were missing. And Seb had one or two creative ideas that he put down in the mix. And finally it was sent to Crummett for mastering. So that is how the whole process of Slow Bloom worked.
Love it. I'm so glad that you took that flag that I handed to you to talk to me about how you write and to actually give me some gritty detail about it. It is always so intriguing to me to learn how bands go about this process. And Brian, I actually want to ask you something a little specific. I've got to take the opportunity because the thing that when I first heard the album, when I first heard a song from your band, this is not to say that the other members didn't wow me, but the vocals are absolutely stunning. Like, it's just one of the most unique vocals. It catches me every time. Where do you get your like vocal influence? Do you have any kind of training? Like, it's just very unique to me. I would really throw you in a category of vocalists that's just, you can kind of tell who they are without, like, you hear it and you know. Where do you get this from?
First of all, thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. I'll tell you exactly where I got it from. I got it from 10 DIY tours that I wasn't ready for. If the number one thing I say to singers who want to get better is, if you really want to get better, go on as many DIY tours as you possibly can, because that shit will make you get better.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. Well, unless you don't have high standards for yourself, then you're just the whole time. But playing in front of people and sucking is not a fun feeling. And no. I have done that. I've done that plenty of times. And the first couple tours that I did, I just was not ready for them. I didn't understand what it meant to sing every night at the top of my lungs. And this was in 2015, so I was probably, I think I was 19 at the time when I joined. And it was humbling. It was like, I thought I was a good singer, and then night 3 of a tour would come along, and I couldn't barely get through the set, and it was embarrassing. Luckily, we weren't playing to anybody, so nobody really saw it. But over time, I just realized like what it took to get ready for these tours, and yeah, it's about touring. Like, a lot of musicians will work on their internet presence for a long time before ever going on tour, which, don't get me wrong, that's a great plan too. We spent a lot of time and a lot of money doing the hard, long way of just DIY touring. But I think I needed to do that, because otherwise I was not going to be where I am today in time for Slow Bloom. I would probably have been, had we not toured as much, I probably would have been as good as I was on Better Off on Slow Bloom, which would not have translated as well, because the stuff on Slow Bloom is much more technical than the stuff on Better Off. You asked about influences. I actually listened to a shit ton of like R&B and pop. That's actually significantly by far what I listen to the most.
Wow.
I'm a bit of a poser when it comes to rock music. Like, I grew up on rock music for sure. Like, I grew up as a scene kid, absolutely. But in the last like 5 years, it's my tastes have definitely changed. I still love a lot of rock music. But yeah, I listen to R&B and pop mostly.
Oh, that's interesting. It's definitely a dynamic voice, and it stands out. I really love it. I'm glad I got the chance to actually ask you that question, because seriously, when I first heard the album, like, fuck those vocals, that's where it's at. So very, very cool. Now, guys, I want to ask, I do ask this question often because I like it. So when picture yourself in the studio recording all the tracks on Slow Bloom, was there a track that really pushed you either as an individual or as a band collectively to like really lay it down to get it? Or maybe you laid it down and it had to be changed, not had to, or maybe there was other creative ideas. Was there a song that really pushed the band more than others?
I'd say probably the most influential in our sound would be Move It or Lose It. So that's the song that perfectly describes like the difference between Brian's songwriting and John's songwriting, and where they found like the happy medium where they could both work together, and they figured out like that's where they figured out how to like combine their two strengths. John typically writes, he's written a lot of like really simple, really like leaving a lot of room for Brian to sing. Brian, coming from like a prog rock background, wanted everything to be like as complicated as possible. And so that was like basically the lead guitar riff in the chorus of that song is like started with John being way too simple and then Brian adding too much. And then they finally figured out like, well, what if we take this half and this half, and they combined it, and it just like we knew once we got the riff to its like final stage, we knew we're like, that's the sound.
That was the first one of its kind for sure.
Like that's the one we need to do that thing more. So that was the song that like really kind of like set us in motion to write the rest of the record.
Does that have any bearing on why it leads off the album?
Yes. 100% bearing on why it leads off the album. That is number one reason why it is track number one.
It does its job. I mean, it certainly made me want to listen to the other 10 tracks, 11 in total, no question. And like I said, I mean, this album just like kind of kicks your ass right out the gate, and then there is some ebb and flow throughout. This next question is kind of similar, but I feel like there's variance in the answer at times. Is there a song off the album that you are most proud of in terms of like the final product and what it sounds like when it's on your speakers or in your headphones?
I know your answer.
I gotta pick. Well,
wait, hold on. Wait, Dan, what is his answer?
I mean, the obvious one is Another Night Alone with You, because Brian wrote like all that. So that's like his baby.
So I have 3 songs in my mind, and none of them are Another Night Alone.
You're a liar.
But I appreciate that. I am very proud of that song, but you specifically mentioned like after everything was done. That I'll talk about that for a second. That was like one of the oldest songs on the record, and that's one of the few that I wrote. Actually, I think it's the only one that I wrote from the ground up. John had almost nothing to do with it, and I was very proud of it. But there are 3 songs in my head that I am picking between, and I will say all 3, and then I will talk about one of them. Watching Other Friends Get Rich, On, and Danger. So those are the 3 that I am very, very, very proud of. And I will talk about On, because it was one of the latest ones we wrote, like one of the last ones. I think it was second to last to Slow Bloom being last. And it was so weird for us. Like that it's not a sound that we have touched very often. And the horns was something that started in Watching Our Friends Get Rich. That was Watching Our Friends Get Rich was the first song that we did horns in when we were writing, because that was like the third one we wrote in the phase. It was Move It or Lose It, Right Through Me, Watching Our Friends Get Rich. And we added horns to that, and we were like, dude, what is happening? Like, we're throwing all this production element into like marimba, horns, all that shit. When we brought that to On, I feel like that song is like, it screams horns. Like this song needs horns. And the timing of On, in that it switches between straight beat and triplet feel, the chords that John came up with are actually like combinations of chords. Like it's literally the guitar part. If you look at the Guitar Pro of that song, which isn't out yet, so when you eventually are able to look at the Guitar Pro, it's literally 2 guitars layered on top of each other, both equal in volume, playing 2 separate chords that create its own chord. And John even said himself, he was like, I don't think I'll ever be able to think of that again. Like that's never going to happen. And I just remember when we were writing it, I was really, really excited, because I feel like that is a sound that I kind of want to touch more on the next album. I feel like it's the Since We All Fell Apart of this album. Since We All Fell Apart was before its time on Better Off, so nobody listened to it. Nobody's listening to On, so I know it's before its time.
Yeah, it is the second least streamed song on the record,
which is fucking bullshit.
And
we need to fix that.
It's like top 2 for all of us.
Yeah, it's like one of our.
We played it live on our last tour, and it did not get the reception.
Nobody cared, and we fucking loved playing it. It was so much fun.
That's really interesting to hear that, and maybe as people start to hear you all live. I don't know if you plan on playing on live. Maybe I don't know. You know what?
It's a headliner tour song.
It's a headliner tour
when
song.
we get 45 minutes, we're playing it.
Okay, so let's
probably not.
So let's make this jump then into a different topic outside of Slow Bloom. The home team is going to be on the Ever Blossom tour featuring This Wild Life and special guest Broadside. So I mean, let's talk about just a hell of a tour with the 3 names, including the home team, on there. This tour kicks off on February the 10th in Denver, Colorado, and it goes all the way to March 6th, ending in Dallas, Texas. We have friends in Dallas, so get out there to that show to end this run. Guys, talk to me about how you're feeling about being on this tour with the absolutely brilliant This Wild Life. They're on my bucket list in 2022 to have them on the show. So we'll see if we'll make that happen. Yeah. You know, if you had a good time, let the guys know. Let the 2 dudes know that it's Spinning Thoughts. We take good care of people that we talk to. But you're with the brilliant This Wild Life and really the incredible Broadside. We're only a few weeks away. Just raw emotion. How are you feeling about being on this run with these really amazing bands?
Dude, we are so fucking thankful.
This is what we've been waiting for.
We have done what, 15, 16 DIY tours?
Maybe like 14, but
I mean, 14, pretty close. I mean, dude, I did 2 tours with the home team before you joined.
That's true. No, yeah, I have maybe done less, but
the home team has done. We've been DIY touring since 2013 when we put out our first EP before Brian, that is no longer on the internet. Don't go look for it.
Someone will find it.
We have been working and grinding for so long to get to the point where we are opening for bigger acts and on tours like this that we're not booking. Like even the last headlining tour, it was our booking agent and me, and we split it basically 50-50. We are so thankful for This Wild Life for like giving us a chance and letting us go out. It's a cool story. Basically, their merch guy, we had toured with his old band called Crooked Teeth a couple of years ago. And so we met, we toured with Crooked Teeth a couple times. We're friends with Tyson, the singer. So we had toured with his old band and just became friends through that. And he just kept pitching to the This Wild Life guys. He kept saying like, dudes, you got to check out my friends, the home team. Like, you need to take them out. And so when Slow Bloom came out, he pitched, he said like, dudes, you have to check out their record. And they liked it enough to have us open their tour. So we're just incredibly thankful and excited to be going out with like bands that have been doing it for a while.
And it's just such an eclectic tour too, if you really think about the sound that all, the 3 different bands really bring. There's an energy that is cohesive, but the sound is very diverse. I think it's going to make for such a very, very cool run for sure. Now, Brian, you may have kind of led me into this question here. When you were talking about touring DIY style and really finding out like after 3 days of singing, you know, that you had to kind of focus on whether it's like conditioning your voice, practicing, things of that nature. So this question, really, I want to know, how does the home team go about practicing, preparing for a run like this? Have you come up with a set list? Do you do any kind of like band practices? If so, like what does that look like? And the last I know I'm asking a lot of questions in one question. The other question I want to wrap up in this is, if you do have a set list, are there any songs that you could share with us that might make this set list?
So, you know, it's funny. Right after this, like right after we're done with this, we're going to go to our first practice for this tour.
Yes.
I swear to God.
Yes.
We definitely try and squeeze in as many as possible because we understand that there is some bands can practice on their own and then be completely show ready on day one. We are not one of those bands. We have to practice together. Like, we have to have everything synced. In fact, I would be willing to say that most bands that think they're a band that can practice on their own are not.
I'm not gonna name any names, but I've seen a couple bands on their first tours back from in 2021, and it was pretty clear that they were not prepared as a band.
They were like, yeah, man, I got my parts down. You just
But it's like we practice individually, and then you get to practice as a band to all put everything together, because playing a live set is not just being able to play all the songs individually. Like 3 of the songs are slightly different live than they are in recording, because we add a little interlude, like before the bridge, little things change, or two groups of songs connect one after the other. So you have to know how to end one song and then go straight into it, or there's a guitar change, and it's all timing based.
Yep. As for me, I have to practice quite a bit, because it's not about whether or not I can sing the parts. It's whether or not my voice is ready to sing it every night for a month. You know what I mean? I got humbled again on this last tour, because in 2019 we did a full US headliner touring on our Better Off material, and I had done enough tours on Better Off that I got to the point on that tour, like a week in, where I was just coasting. Like, I didn't have to worry about my voice anymore. Like, I still warmed up, but not nearly as rigid. I didn't have to vocal rest during the day anymore. I was killing it. Like, I had no problem singing the whole set. And that for the rest of the year, that was the case. And I was really stoked about that, because I no longer had to do like the I don't talk until 4 p.m. thing, and drinking tea and getting plenty of vocal rest. So I went into the Slow Bloom tour with the same hubris as I had on the 2019 tour, not thinking about the fact that Slow Bloom is so much harder to sing than Better Off.
I also fucked Brian. We had 0 days off and 11 shows in a row, and that was a mistake, and I'm sorry. And honestly, not even just for Brian,
everybody was
physically for all of us. It was very difficult, and we're never going to do that again.
Never do
this
that again.
This tour has like every Monday off, and like a couple 2 days a week. So
I think the longest stretch is 5 days, if that. Well, maybe it's like 6 days, but anyways, it was 11 days straight after 2 years of not touring, and man, that was very hard. And so this time that's the thing. I did practice for that tour, and I did condition my voice beforehand, but the night 1 of the tour in Spokane, I literally was like, this is not the same as singing the set twice in my car, because I'm sitting in my car, not exerting nearly as much energy, and playing a show is just a different beast. So what I'm going to try and do for this one is like February 1st, I'm going to start playing mock shows every night, so that I can basically be in my 2nd week of touring by the time I start the tour. I'm going to try to do that. It's a bit hard, because like playing a mock show is tough if you don't have a literal stage to play on. I'll probably just go to John's basement every night, because he has a lot of room, and I'll just be like, hey, I'm going to play a mock show down here. But to answer your final part of that question about our set lists. So yes, we do pick a set list ahead of time. It usually depends on how much time we have. Typically we have not had a time restriction, because we have been the headliner.
The time restriction is when the venue wants to turn us off and kick us out.
Yeah, exactly. And we very seldom get to that point, because we've always been firm believers in playing leaning a short set versus a long set, because it will probably just leave people wanting more. Especially if you're an opening band. If you're an opening band and you're trying to fill 32 minutes of your 30-minute set, like, bro, don't even.
Right.
I can count the number of times I've seen like bands that I like and want to see play for 45 minutes, and by the end of it, I'm like, they could have stopped a couple songs ago. It's like,
I know that feeling.
Like, we want to play 25 killer minutes, play like 7 songs,
just go ham,
and then leave everyone, cut the set, leave everyone wanting more, because if everyone's satisfied, then they're not going to go listen anymore.
So anyways, we can tell you a couple things that will for sure be on the set list for this tour. The singles. The singles they're all on there.
There we go.
They're all on there. We often do one or we often do She's Quiet and Fashion Forward just because we have to. We're never gonna drop those from our set. And then there's one mystery song that we have not played live yet.
Ooh.
And if I say that, I have said the entire song.
There's definitely some. We like to keep the mystery alive here at Spinning Thoughts. So you'll just have to go and check out this run with the home team, This Wild Life and Broadside. The last question that I have for you both in terms of this tour is, what is the best part of touring for you? And I really, really want you to consider that in terms of the climate that we're touring in nowadays too, right? It is not easy to tour ever, and it's becoming more challenging now with COVID and just the uncertainty. There's got to be something, if not more than one thing, that really gives you the motivation to go out and do this. What is it? Well, like, what do you love about touring?
You can go first.
So I don't think I can give just one answer to that. I guess I'll have to give two parts. So actually three. I'm sorry, three parts to your question. The first, the most fun 30 minutes of every day is playing. There's no question. If that's everyone's answer, anyone who plays in a band, anyone who tours, when you're on set, when you're on stage and you're playing, that is the most fun. I think the most overall enjoyable part for me is being able to like talk with fans, being able to like, this is the first tour where like we have to bring a merch person because there's just too much to do and we can't handle it ourselves anymore. So now we won't be hanging at the merch table as much as we would have in the past. So talking to fans at the merch table, like, and seeing, people be psyched and tell us how our music has, how they connected with it or how long they've been listening or where they found us. That's like the in-person affirmation of the thing we've been trying to build. And overall fulfillment wise, just being able to do this thing that we like, this crazy dream that we've had since we were kids, and like going out and actually being able to like realize the dream we've been working on. That's like the thing that keeps us going all the time, because like playing the show is sick, but that is 30 minutes of every day and there's so much more to it. But working hard to like actually go and fulfill our like dream, that's the thing that keeps me going.
Totally. I'll talk about like a little more like why I like touring. And it's because I have always been like, I'm very much so like a productivity driven person. Like I love getting shit done. You know what I mean? And sometimes relaxing can be hard because I feel like I should be doing something that I feel productive in. Even in the video games I play, that translates, because I like video games where it feels like I'm making a lot of progress. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But when I'm on tour, I never feel like I'm wasting my time. I feel like it 3 weeks feels like 3 months when I'm out there, and it also feels like 3 days.
Yeah.
It literally just feels like I am doing something sick with my life. You know what I mean? Like it feels like I am fulfilling myself. I realize that's a little more spiritual than maybe you were looking for, but
no, but yeah, I'm actually vibing with that right now. I love that.
But yeah, it really does feel like I am meeting goals that are going to make me a more fulfilled person when I die.
If I was you two, if I was one of you two, I'd be really fucking stoked about where things are and where they're going. I've played in bands before. I say this all the time. The reason why I have a music podcast is because the band thing didn't work out for me. So this is just kind of the backup plan. I totally am like jealous of, and I mean jealous in a good way, because sometimes it has a negative connotation. Like I'm so stoked for you guys. I can only imagine how fucking cool this all is. And I just can't wait for people to experience that with you. And that's what it's all about with the home team is the community and people experiencing the music and the vibe and the live show together. I can't wait. I implore everybody to go check out this run that starts on February the 10th. Brian, you were talking about how fast tour kind of goes, and I'm looking at the amount of time that we've talked already, and it's flying by. I feel like I could continue to talk, so I'm going to make sure that I'm focusing on getting in a few more questions here as we round out this interview and this conversation. Cool. Something that was brought to my attention by your press team is that you have a Patreon, and I'm very intrigued by that because I really am a supporter and a believer in bands finding other avenues to engage their fans, to give them exclusive kind of content, and to just really make the experience more exclusive, essentially. So I was hoping you guys might be able to talk to me a little bit about what your Patreon is all about and what fans and subscribers to it could expect from it in 2022.
Yeah. So our Patreon, we started because of COVID, basically. It was an idea. I mean, you had the idea a long time ago.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the credit. As the like business mind, like my mind is always going towards like, okay, how can we take, like, there's no money in streaming. It's very hard to make money, but the reality is, in order to turn this into a full-time career, we have to make money on it. That's just how the world works.
Yep.
So I had been pitching like we should start a Patreon, just get it started. Even though we know no one's going to join, we should just get it started so that when, if we get to a point where people would join, it's already there. And then basically when COVID hit, we were like, well, we're not touring this year, so let's do that Patreon thing. And it gave us a huge amount of like motivation to keep working and to start producing content and get into the swing of like making videos and thinking when we're recording, how do we create some like behind the scenes stuff that would be usable there, but wouldn't necessarily go on Instagram. And so when we started it, we thought it was going to be like, 5 or so people might sign up. Like, my mom's probably going to sign up. But we ended up getting like 30 or 40 people in the first month. And then it just kept rolling and kept rolling. And so that was like a huge piece of motivation for us to realize that like, oh, people do give a shit. Like when we're playing shows, people come up to you and say, you played a good set, that like, I like your music. And that's like, the way that the validation that we know that what we're doing is working. Without shows, there's really none of that validation. So this was a huge way for us to see that people actually did care and that we needed to like keep grinding and keep going.
Yep. Word to any band thinking about making a Patreon, just fucking do it. Start it. Even if there's only one tier and it's pretty limited, like just get it started. You will there will be people, if there's not now, eventually, if you keep going, that want to just support you, even if they don't want the benefits of it. That at the end of the day, there are people who give us monthly money and do not interact on the Discord. They don't watch anything. Like they're literally they want to support us. And that is more prevalent than you think. So I love the Patreon community that we have. It's well over 100 people now. And we had a bunch of them come out to the Phoenix show, and there is an inside joke about asparagus on the Discord, and they gave me a bouquet of yellow roses and asparagus with a little card in it that said play Real World, which is like the Discord favorite Better Off song
that we never played
live. So we stumbled our way through it, and it was great. But anyway,
on tomorrow we're getting that bouquet of asparagus and roses tattooed on all of us.
Wow! Oh, that's sick.
A dumb tour tattoo for every tour, so we all have like a leg section where all
just dumbass tattoos
of matching tattoos. Basically,
I'm assuming this will get posted on the social media for people to see, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I cannot wait to see it.
But as far as like the content that goes on Patreon, so we do a couple things. We have like behind the scenes videos. So there's stuff where we show like, here are our pets. We haven't done the tattoo tour. We need to do that.
We should do the tattoo one. It basically
tour. Wow.
Oh
shit. That flows nicely.
Tat tour. Yeah, basically like highlighting all of our tattoos. It sounds corny. It is corny,
It is.
but they don't care. That's what they want to see. Like
then we do we have like mini podcasts. We call them mini casts.
Yeah.
Where
like
it's
20 minutes.
Yeah, usually Brian and I talking about different topics relating to the band. So we're working through like explaining how the songwriting process and the meaning behind each song one at a time.
Yeah. Each song has its own episode.
We tell tour stories. I have a very, very small group of people interested in the business side behind the band. So I like go in and explain like the inner workings of making a band run. We post like extra pictures from tour and from photo sessions that didn't get posted online. And then we have like some exclusive merch that is only available to the patrons. So there's like there's a tier where everybody at month 3 gets a t-shirt that's only available to Patreon. And every like other month we do a mailing list where we send out cards and little goodies or stickers, things that only go to them. Yep. And yeah.
Told you we could talk. Next question.
I think that this definitely relates. TikTok is also something that the band seems to be leaning into and doing quite well with. I still feel like there are bands out there that are similar to Patreon. They just refuse to take the plunge into TikTok. And I too kind of struggled with that a little bit with Spinning Thoughts. And I need to be a little bit more serious with it myself, but I certainly see the value in it. Talk to me about the home team and why you lean into TikTok and the value that you see there for the band.
Yeah, so I started leaning into it back in like April, and then I kind of fell off because I actually edited all the music videos except for Watching My Friends Get Rich. That was our buddy Mark, but because I ended up really busy with those. It was basically taking up all my creative headspace. I couldn't think about TikTok. And the thing is, though, we have friends in bands that are, we just had a conversation the other night with a buddy from a band called Arrows in Action. The drummer is the one who runs their TikTok, and they're old friends of ours. Like, we've been friends with them for years. And he basically was, we wanted to call him just to get some like insights on like what he thinks is important to do. Basically it was like quantity over quality, just fucking post shit. Like, one of them will eventually just get blown up for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. He said, make it easy. Like, don't spend too much brain effort on it. Just put your music on it. Like, end of story. Just put your music on it every day. Even if it's the same clip every single day, just put it up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and not just artists, but people in general, still see TikTok as like the evolution of Musical.ly, which is just people dancing to songs.
Right. And
that is not what it is. That's what it was, and that still exists. But there's so many other like parts of TikTok.
It's Musical.ly and Vine combined.
Yeah, and it's a huge music discovery tool. It's basically like, if you have no money to run Facebook and Instagram ads, you should just be dumping content on TikTok.
Yeah, just as much as you possibly can.
Just try everything. And the way I see it is like, if you post something bad that's not like, or when I say bad, I mean like not a good TikTok, if no one sees it, no one knows it was bad because no one saw it.
Yeah.
So like, just fucking do it.
Yep.
So we have friends that are in, they've done a tour or two, and they have hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok, and their monthly listeners and Instagram followers, everything blows up because of it. It's just like the best music discovery tool right now. So I think every band should just be like pumping all their energy. Plus, you can download the videos and post them everywhere else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We did a couple Instagram reels from the TikTok. So
absolutely. What was the most recent one? Your question. I think I have it on the back. What's worse? What is the answer, Brian? What is worse?
Oh, waking up knowing that you don't mean shit. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Watching your friends get rich, that's not even that bad of a thing. Like, yeah, maybe you're the poor friend, but if you ever need like a safety net to lean on, you got a couple homies. Definitely the latter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, guys, honestly, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and there's other things I had written down that I wanted to talk about, like video games and whatnot. We'll have to bring you back on to Spinning Thoughts for a part 2, because this is an episode of 2s. So we have to bring you back for a second one, or else we're doing everybody a disservice here. Very quickly, though, I do want both of you to just maybe tell me a band or two or whatever from 2021 that just kind of stood out to you that released new music.
So as I was saying earlier, I don't actually listen to a ton of rock anymore, but I feel like the one rock album that I really did dive into and like was the new Sleep Token album.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was so
cool.
Yeah. And I knew it was sick. I was a little late to it. I had listened to the singles, but I listened to the rest of it a couple weeks after it came out. And I was like, holy shit, this is so refreshing. Because I mean, I hate to say it, one of the reasons I don't listen to rock anymore is because I think it's starting to all sound the same.
Yeah.
And bands that are doing something really weird and cool is always welcomed. That said, I have to do a service to what I listen to more often by saying an artist that I got really into this year that is not rock, and that is Victoria Monet. Victoria Monet is really phenomenal. She has just a really nice blend of R&B and pop that is both catchy but also soulful. Definitely look that shit up. Victoria Monet is amazing.
I'm going to, because I'm not that familiar. Daniel, what about you?
I think the 2 EPs that I listen to the most that are like in our world are the Nightlife EP.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's called New Low.
It is. Yep.
This is long. And the Sharia Moore EP. Okay. Internal. So those EPs are the ones that I listen to the most. And then if you listen to our record, you can tell we're all metal guys. So I listen to more heavy music than anything. And probably the record that I listened to the most in 2021 that came out that year was Humanity's Last Breath. Was it Valda? Yeah. Valda.
Something
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Something I can't pronounce.
Yeah. Humanity's Last Breath.
That album was very tight.
Oh, technically the Vitriol EP was re-released in 2021.
Yeah,
so, okay.
Nobody listening.
Homies of ours that are like the next generation of like extreme death metal, like hard to get through the entire record because it is just so fucking relentless. It's like it goes from 10 to 11 back to 10. Like it's just nonstop. So if you're a fan of like extreme metal, check out the band Vitriol. They did a re-release of their like 2013 EP in 2021 and redid the vocals. Band is absolutely insane.
I'm looking forward to checking that out, and I appreciate you guys sharing the love to some of these other bands that are out there, your peers who did some good work in 2021, just like the home team with Slow Bloom. So, guys, before we say goodbye, it's always a sad time when we do. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or say to the fans of Spinning Thoughts, to the fans of the home team? Anything I fucked up that we need to correct on the record here today? Anything at all?
Nothing you fucked up, but we have a new album called Slow Bloom. That is out and you can listen to it now. And we are also going on tour with This Wild Life Broadside in February. So check that out.
And buy bands, music, and merch. If you like a band, buy something from them.
Yeah, it really goes a long way. The streaming is just not what it used to be.
Buy a t-shirt.
Yep.
Buy a t-shirt. There we go. That's some words to carry out of this episode with. Brian and Daniel, I appreciate you both so much. Congratulations on Slow Bloom. Everybody go listen to it. And thank you for being here for episode 222 of Spinning Thoughts.
That's crazy. Thanks for having us.
Once again, I want to thank Brian and Daniel from the home team for being here for episode 222 of Spinning Thoughts. If you haven't listened to Slow Bloom yet, now is the time. They're going to be on tour with This Wild Life Broadside starting February the 10th. And then just today at the time of this taping, they also announced that they're going to be on tour supporting Point North, and I think they're switching dates off with friends of the show, Sharia Moore. So go check out the home team, give them some love, and while you're at it, make sure you give us some love on all social media at Spin Thoughts. Our website is thespinningthoughts.com, and we have premiere episodes every Thursday at midnight Eastern on idobi Radio. Make sure you hit the like button. It really does help. If you're not subscribed, now is a good time to do it. And make sure you're also subscribed wherever you go to get your podcast. We'll be back again, same time, same place next week. Until then, make sure you share music, spread love,